Hello everybody, welcome back to another YouTube video. In case you haven't noticed, we're in a little bit of a different area than we normally are. In case you missed my last video, I posted a room tour of the room that I used to film in because I have moved. I am now in my new apartment, and as for right now, this is the new YouTube background. Obviously, things are always subject to change, but I think I like it. Patreon actually got to see it first in my House of the Dragon reaction video that I posted the other day. So if you're not a member of my Patreon, you're missing out. You can subscribe to my Patreon at a paid tier, or you can just join my Patreon as a free member. That's also an option. So if you're not a member of my Patreon, make sure you go and check it out. The link is in the description down below. But I'm not here to talk about my new room today. Today, I'm here to talk to you about what I think is the show of the summer. Summertime is the best time of year when it comes to consuming media. Theaters tend to put out their best movies, and the box office tends to do its biggest numbers, and streaming services tend to put out the newest seasons of their shows, and we all get to collectively sit and enjoy these shows together as a fandom. So far, this summer has seen a lot of new seasons from a lot of very popular shows. In just June alone, we have gotten Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2, The Boys Season 4, The Acolyte, The Bear Season 3, House of the Dragon Season 2, and plenty more. And all of these shows are additions to long-standing fandoms, and they generated a lot of buzz within their fandoms. Some of them good buzz, some of them bad buzz, but buzz nonetheless. However, I find it much more impressive for a show to come out and create a lot of buzz and get people talking about it when it's a standalone project and not a part of an already existing fandom. When a show gets spread and becomes popular by a positive word of mouth, I think it's one of the most exciting things for me to see. Reviewers and critics have their place for sure, but when the general public audience is buzzing and excited about your show, I think that's when you really get people genuinely invested. So today, I'm here to talk to you about the show of the summer, the show that I have seen people talking about nonstop on all of my social medias, My Lady Jane. My Lady Jane is a show on Amazon Prime. It is a historically inaccurate fantasy show based on a book called My Lady Jane. The show is sort of a what if of the true story of Lady Jane Grey, who was a woman who was crowned Queen of England in the summer of 1553. The real Lady Jane is known most famously as the 9-Day Queen. She inherited the throne from Edward VI as an attempt to keep the Catholic Princess Mary off the throne, but that clearly didn't work, considering just 9 days later, Jane was branded a traitor of the crown, and about half a year later, she was executed. My Lady Jane, however, starts with a narrator telling us the real story of Lady Jane Grey, but then saying, fuck that. What if history was different? So this show takes a real story from history, keeps our heroine alive, and also, the main love interest is a horse. Yes, you heard that right. The main love interest of this show is a horse, but we'll unpack that in a minute. So the rest of this review is going to contain some slight spoilers for some of the plot points in the show, but if you still need convincing, I encourage you to obviously listen to what I'm about to say, and I promise you, you'll want to watch this show by the end of this video. However, if you don't want any spoilers, skip to this timestamp in the video. So honestly, if you like Bridgerton, My Lady Jane is kind of like Bridgerton if they had more fun while writing it, and also people could metamorphosize into animals. In my opinion, the most important part of My Lady Jane is that it does not shy away from the romance. And if you ask me, I think we need more silly, fantastical, beautiful romance stories. And that's kind of exactly what My Lady Jane is. This show has everything from a snarky narrator to a headstrong female lead to a very handsome leading man. The story starts with our main character Jane being forced to marry a man named Guildford Dudley, a man that Jane has never met, but she's heard enough about him to know that marrying him sounds like a fate worse than death. Jane, like most female leads in any historical fantasy, yearns for her freedom and sees marriage as the death of any freedom she could possibly attain. Jane's cousin, Edward VI, can't and won't help Jane out of this marriage. So Jane has no other choice. She has to run away. She attempts to run away with her lady's maid named Susanna, and when they're caught, the audience is introduced to the most fantastical part of this show. Susanna shapeshifts into a hawk. That's right, this show has romance, yearning, angst, and most importantly, shapeshifters. And I know that probably sounds so silly, because when I saw a tweet that was like, man, y'all really know how to bury a lead, because why is the main love interest in My Lady Jane a horse? I was flabbergasted. In this show, some people are what they like to call Ethians, which is basically a group of people that can shapeshift. And the people that are just like regular, normal people hate Ethians and want them all dead. Very casual 1500s lore. Jane attempts to run away yet again, and she finds herself at this tavern where she sees a whole bunch of people mingling, enjoying life, and living freely, which is exactly what Jane wants for herself. And at this tavern, Jane meets a tall, dark, handsome stranger. Because of course, who else are you going to meet when you are the lead female character in a romance story? However, the police show up to this tavern claiming Ethians are there, everyone scatters, and Jane loses the handsome stranger that she just met. Fast forward a little bit to Jane's wedding. She's making her way down the aisle, and who is at the end but the tall, dark, handsome stranger that Jane just met in the tavern the night before? That's right. Jane's betrothed, Guilford Dudley, which is a crazy name, is none other than the man that she met in the tavern. How exciting, right? No, because Jane still does not want to get married. And now that she knows that this guy from the tavern is Guildford, she's still heard stories about him, about how he's a rake and all this stuff. So she has no interest in him, no matter how handsome he is. The wedding goes into the night. Jane is still fighting with Guilford as the sun is coming up. Guilford is trying to get away from Jane before the sun rises, but he has no such luck. And once dawn breaks, Guilford transforms into a horse right in front of Jane's eyes. That's right, Guilford is Ethian, but he doesn't get to be the fun kind of Ethian because Guilford cannot control when he shapeshifts, which is a very big problem. He can only stay in his human form during the nighttime, and during the daytime, he is stuck in the body of a horse. Now, mind you, while all of this is happening, King Edward finds out that he is being poisoned by his sister, Princess Mary, because she wants to become queen. Now, in real life, the real King Edward died of tuberculosis. But hey, this is what historical fiction was meant for. However, in the show, once King Edward is pronounced dead, his will states that his cousin, Lady Jane Grey, is to be crowned Queen of England. So now, Jane has to deal with her husband being a horse, trying to cure his Ethianism for him, trying not to fall in love with him in the process of everything, and she now has to be the Queen of England. And mind you, if Princess Mary had no trouble poisoning her own brother to become queen, you can bet Mary is more than willing to kill Jane as well. When I told you that this show has everything in it, I mean it seriously has everything. And there's so many more spoilers and plot points that I could get into about the show, but truly I want you guys to watch it and experience a lot of it for yourself. Everything that I just talked about literally happens like within the first 2 episodes of the show. So there's still a lot more for you to unpack if you choose to watch it, which of course I recommend that you do. That's the whole point of me making this video. For the romance aspect of this show, the dynamic between Jane and Guilford is like top tier romance. Arranged marriage turned true love is a very fun trope, especially when it's set in the 1500s, and especially when it's in like a historic fiction type of setting. Jane and Guilford have literally almost any romance plot that you could think of. They've got love at first sight, they've got enemies to lovers, they've got arranged marriage, they've got slow burn, they've got forbidden love, and so many more. So if you're a romance girl or a romance guy, I promise you that there is a trope in this show for you to love. Not to mention the actors playing Jane and Guilford have insane chemistry. So they are so incredibly fun to watch on your screen. I need more of them, like immediately. They have so much angst built up between the two of them. It's just so much fun to watch, and you kind of just want to scream at your TV like, just kiss already, which is like the best kind of romance to watch. For the fantasy aspect of this show, the shapeshifting plotline is such a good addition to this story. It's like just the right amount of silly where you can laugh at the absurdness of it, but it also has very serious moments that do play into multiple different character developments. Obviously, the concept of shapeshifting is very hilarious on the surface, but it doesn't take someone with a PhD to piece together that the Ethians are obviously a metaphor for just like a very oppressed group of people. So like I said, it's very silly, but it also can have very serious moments and serious undertones at the same time. This show also has a lot of really well-written humor, at least in my opinion. I was laughing like almost the whole time. The side characters serve as a lot of comic relief in this show, and the jokes feel very fresh to me and very well written. Nothing in this show feels tired, and I think that that's why it's doing very well with the general audience. My Lady Jane is kind of the perfect combination of like historical fiction and like modern day fantasy. If I had to compare My Lady Jane to any already existing shows, I'd probably put it in the same category as shows like Reign and Dickinson. I've heard a lot of people compare it to this Hulu show called The Great. I've never seen The Great, so I wouldn't know, but you can do with that information what you will. I don't know how many of you have seen the show Reign. It gets some slack here and there for like its super inaccurate costumes for the time period that it exists in, whatever. I really liked Rain. It's like a good sort of romance show. And then Dickinson, I also really liked. My Lady Jane also has a phenomenal soundtrack. It's got songs from artists like Led Zeppelin, The Go-Go's, Black Honey, and so many more, like very recognizable, iconic songs. I decided to watch this show because I saw so many people tweeting about the romance between Jane and Guildford, but then I saw somebody tweet about how he's also a horse, and I was like, okay, I have to see what this show is about. And I'm so glad I did. I don't regret it one bit. I binged it so fast, and I'm really hoping that we get a season 2 because I really grew attached to a lot of these characters and I want to see them again. And I think thanks to so many people posting about it on Twitter and TikTok and whatnot, My Lady Jane is performing really well on Amazon Prime's charts. So fingers crossed for season 2. Long story short, if you're looking for a short but sweet show where you can enjoy your time, have a laugh, and witness a really great love story, you need to watch My Lady Jane immediately. I don't think you'll regret it. If you have watched My Lady Jane, let me know in the comments down below if you liked it or not, or let me know if this video convinced you to give My Lady Jane a chance. I'm a big fan of sort of romance, silly little romance shows, so this was definitely an A+ show for me. Make sure you check me out on all my other social media platforms. Check out my podcast that I have with my boyfriend. And like I said earlier in the video, make sure you subscribe to my Patreon. We do so much over there. You don't want to miss out on anything. And like I said, you can also be a free member where you don't have to pay for a subscription. So check that out. The link is in the description down below. But that does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.